Welcome to the Christmas episode of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on the 28th of December 2017. Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by ATH Web Hosting at athwebhosting.com.au. Servers operate on SSD drives, there's immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, and easy install of WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal. This week we have some highlights from the Ghosts of Aussie Tech Heads past, featuring a chat with a few tech journalists, Adam Turner, Alex Kidman and Lydia Davis. Hope you enjoy the show, and we'll be back again soon with our regular scheduled program.
So when you look at when you review these TVs, do you review lower end TVs or you just stick to the high end?
Bother.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't bother.
If it's not 4K with a curved screen, he doesn't care.
Oh, I hate curved screens. But even that, because I'm a generalist, right? I do a bit of everything. I don't have time to look at every TV the same way I don't have time to look at every smartphone, every whatever. So I just do the flagship models. I'll look at the top of the line Samsung. I'll look at the top of the line LG, the top of the line Sony, maybe the Panasonic, and they're the ones that I will write about. But there are places. CNET's pretty good. CNET, you'll find that when you're looking at something, they've reviewed everything in the category.
Yeah.
So I would be more, okay, you're the reader and you go, I'm interested in a top shelf television. Here, Adam's writing about this. Or I was interested in buying that LG OLED, actually. Let's see what Adam's got to say about it. But if you want to review, if you want to know the whole dozen in that category, in that price range, I'm one of the resources you look at, but you'd also go, like I said, somewhere like CNET has always been good for that.
So what would your comment be if I said to you, look, this Kogan TV had a Samsung panel or something like that? Still leave him alone?
This is what Kogan's been saying for years. We've got Samsung panels, so therefore we're as good as a Samsung. If I sold you a Ferrari and it had a Volkswagen motor in it, but told you, look, it must be a Ferrari because it's got a Ferrari shell, would you believe me? That's pretty much what it is.
This interesting show on YouTube where these guys were buying Ferrari shells and repackaging other cars and then selling them.
Well,
they made a lot of money for a while.
Without wanting to be too nasty about it, that's a little bit about what we're talking about here, because it's not just the panel. It's a lot of it's about the smarts not the smarts as in the Netflix, the video processing.
That's my biggest worry.
It looks at the incoming picture, especially if what you're watching is not in 4K and it has to upscale it.
Yeah,
there's a really big difference between a cheap and nasty TV and a good TV, and that's what you're paying for. Is that video processing and stuff like that, and that's where you want to spend.
Yeah, and that's probably where my problem or my issue lay was. I just didn't. You just don't know if it's got motion blur or what it's going to have because you haven't seen it.
When it comes in the post, you don't find out till it's too late.
No, that's right. But anyway, look. So Amazon, So well, I'm sure there'll be TVs on Amazon, but there'll be probably everything on Amazon. They reckon it's going to chew into the local market, into Harvey Norman, JB Hi-Fi, and it probably will too. But look, I know we've got an eBay story coming up pretty soon. I think one of Jace's stories, so we'll stay tuned for that.
eBay has threatened to block Australians from using its platform if the government pushes ahead with its unworkable online GST changes. Under new laws slated to come into effect from July 1, overseas businesses with an annual turnover of $75,000 or more will be required to register with the ATO to collect GST on all goods sold, including purchases under the current low-value threshold of $1,000. Treasurer Scott Morrison claims the changes are about ensuring Australian businesses do not continue to be unfairly disadvantaged by the current GST exemption that applies to imports of low-value goods. Major retailers, including Harvey Norman and Premier Investments, have long lobbied for the change, saying it will level the playing field against the likes of Amazon, ASOS, and eBay. But in a scathing submission to Senate inquiry, eBay has joined a growing chorus speaking out against the changes, describing it as a hastily introduced, counterproductive, complex, inconsistent, and unworkable bill that will harm Australian consumers in many ways. Well, what do you think about that one, Adam? It sounds... We're gonna be kicked. We're gonna need Ozbay or just use the trading post online.
They're bluffing.
Or Gumtree.
They are bluffing. There's no way they're going to leave Australia. I understand why they're unhappy about it, but it's not hastily. We've been talking about this for a long time. It's been coming, and it doesn't really seem that unreasonable. And it's not like when you shop on. Gerard Harvey's been complaining for years, saying, "Oh, it's not fair. People shop online; they don't have to pay GST."
I can't buy another racehorse this week.
Exactly. But it's not. But the price difference is not. But they shop overseas. But even if you pay GST, sometimes you're paying so much on the Australia tax. It's a little bit better these days. But the Australia tax was so high that the GST was not actually a factor. Even if you would charge the 10%, it was still a bargain to buy it online. But it's not unreasonable, I don't think, to expect stores. And we're not the only bloody country in the world with a goods and services tax. Like, they've had to deal with this elsewhere, the VAT and whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not hastily thought out. They've been talking about it for a long time. You could argue that maybe the threshold should be a little bit higher or a little bit lower, because it becomes, if it's costing them a few cents to process it, and it's, are they getting their money on it? But they're not gonna walk away. It's maybe one of the reasons why Amazon is looking at coming here, because they will then lose that advantage, right? Amazon now online will have to charge the extra GST. So once you're losing that advantage, then there's more advantage. There's more reason for them to come here, if you know what I mean, because they lose that online advantage.
Amazon being physically here, will they be able to have a less large size Australia tax and be able to undercut some of the local ones?
The Australia tax on Amazon is shipping. That's what kills you on Amazon, is the shipping. You can always look on Amazon and everything is cheaper than here, but you've got to do the maths in your head and think, all right, I'm saving 20%, but I'm paying all this in postage, where here I would have paid hardly any. And then, of course, you go over to the UK and you look there as well, and you spend 15 minutes with a spreadsheet, the slide rule, trying to figure out where's the cheapest place to buy it. But once Amazon comes here and they've got warehouses and they've got local logistics, then that should be cheaper than buying stuff from them overseas. But they had to ship it here in the first place, but they shipped it here in bulk on a container ship and didn't fly it out. Just one TV for you, or one couch for you. So you would think that they should be able to beat the prices they're offering when they had to ship stuff here.
And I also wonder, mostly, is this going to put a fire under Harvey Norman and what have you, because they'll be able to offer it at the prices that they want? Or are they going to have to add on the Australia tax and have items priced about the same as our local retailers?
Well, that depends, because sometimes the Australia tax is not set by the retailer, it's set by the actual vendor. Right. So when they set a recommended minimum retail price, but Amazon has the clout to push back on a vendor and say, you are charging too much for this. They are big enough to do that. So you would hope you would see these kind of things balance out.
So an interesting part of that story, though, was it said under new laws to come into effect July 1st, overseas businesses with an annual turnover of 75,000 or more. Who's policing that? Are we just going, okay, like, I don't know, Samsung. Yeah, they're earning more than 75,000. So yeah,
it depends if it's opt in or opt out. It depends if you have to prove that you're under 75, or if they want you to prove that you're not over 75. If you know what I mean. You think they'd be asking everybody. The way to do it is ask every retailer. But how do you like you say, there's a million of them. There will be ones in the middle who are $100,000 companies who will they won't catch them.
And look, I think
they will catch the $1 million company.
Like Bob's USB dongles and devices eBay shop, where he's only got it online and that's the only place, but he still might do 100,000.
And he's probably not going to get caught up in this.
Yeah, but what compulsion is there, or what's the what big sticker they got to say? Someone in China's going to give us stuff about our GST rules. They're just going, oh yeah, we're under 75,000. They might sell 20 million dongles a week.
I don't know what they can do about it. I mean,
that's
we
right.
don't have the great Australian firewall that they wanted, so they could block people. So at the end of the day, I don't know how much they can do about it. I don't know if they can fine them because they're in a foreign jurisdiction. They can't block their website.
Maybe they can complain.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, so
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's right.
But as you say, China, for example, those businesses aren't really going to care, and they're not that afraid of Australia.
Yeah, and I think most of the time when you buy something off eBay, it's only some little, well, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's just some little trinkety thing, really. Like, it doesn't, it's not, I'm not buying TVs, I'm not buying fridges or anything like that off eBay. I can't remember what the biggest item is that I've purchased. I honestly can't tell you.
And I sell old phones on there, and I buy the odd phone I have got from eBay. But
I bought a second-hand pool table. It's sweet.
There you go.
Really sweet.
How'd you
Mate and I had to drive across town,
put
it in the back of the station wagon. We couldn't get the boot down, so we had to wrap it in blankets, tie the boot down with a foot open at the back, and then drive home through the CityLink, the tunnel under the river, to get home with this pool table in the back. best $200 ever spent.
So what sort of car did you have?
Mitsubishi Magnum wagon.
Right.
Sadly gone to that big wreckers in the sky since, but yeah, it served me well.
I no wonder.
Yeah, that was its last car.
That was his last one. Yeah, all right, good stuff.
It's like, screw that, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, it died for a worthy cause.
Now, Microsoft confirms it's patched most of the NSA's Windows exploits. Now, you would have heard from previous weeks where the NSA or WikiLeaks has, laid bare all the NSA's secrets about how they hack devices and computers and whatever. But Microsoft said it had patched most of Windows vulnerabilities purportedly exploited by the NSA using tools that were leaked recently. Microsoft retired Windows Vista this year and even older Windows XP more than 3 years ago. But XP and Server 2003 are probably the biggest ones at risk because they haven't had updates since 2014. So pretty much Microsoft is just trying to urge everyone onto Windows 10. You should be on 10. Even updates to 7 are still coming through, but they're still pushing to get onto Windows 10. If you've updated, that's all good. Now, I think
How worried are you about the NSA coming to get you, though? That's the question you have to ask. What is your risk profile? Seriously, are they out to get you?
Yeah, and
I'm away to Australian mail. I should not have any problems. They don't care about me.
Yeah, so look, so are you trying to say, are you getting at if you're not doing anything wrong, this is not going to hurt me?
No, that's a slippery slope. I don't like it when people say if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to fear, because that's how they get away with doing this stuff. And then one day they go too far and you think, how did we get here? Oh, that's right, because back there we didn't say anything. But at the same time, like I said, you've got to draw your own realistic line in the sand. Is the NSA really likely to come looking for you? Are you doing anything that's going to be a problem? I'd be more worried about hackers breaking into your computer to try and steal your banking details or ransomware, encryptionware and stuff like that than I would be about the NSA. Me being a journalist, perhaps my risk profile is a little bit different to your average person. Again, if you're the CEO of a company, then your risk profile is different. So you've really got to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What's the realistic risk and what's the realistic consequences if it happens? And then you think about, well, how much do I need to worry about VPNs? How much do I need to worry about the NSA? How much do I need to worry about those clicking sounds when I pick up the phone?
Yeah. So in your business, in your line of business, do you go out and buy, say, the non-Chinese routers, and do you go down that path, or?
No, I don't quite go down that path. I would a bit more if I was writing about security, or if I was doing a lot of business investigations and stuff like that, where I really thought that I was more of a risk. It does occur to me every now and then when I'm writing a story, I wonder if somebody was reading this over my shoulder. But if I wrote about security, if I wrote about international relations, if I was writing about China, I would be a little bit more concerned about these things. But I still take reasonable risks. I use VPNs when I'm on networks that I don't trust. I use a lot of encryption, HTTPS, two-factor authentication, the kind of things that your average person should be doing to protect themselves. If the NSA wants you, they'll get you. All right. It doesn't matter what you do. The pedophiles using Tor, they still got them in the end, right? Because if you're doing something that bad, they will get you. That's what I'm saying. You got to ask yourself, what's your risk profile? Who realistically is out to get you, and how far are they prepared to go to do it?
Yep.
And you certainly don't click on links that people send you through Facebook Messenger, right?
Oh God,
definitely
no.
not.
No. But also the messages about the business scams are much more likely. You don't get emails anymore that's saying, hey, you've won the British lottery, click here. All right, they know that. You get an email that says, hey, you've got a speeding fine. If you don't click here, you'll have to pay. Or the business ones are really clever. I've been getting ones about BPay recently that say, you've received a BPay payment, click here for the details. And I think, yeah, okay, I'm a business, people pay me money. And then I stop and think, hang on, but I've never received an email like this before. And actually, no one pays me by BPay.
No.
But if you work for a business and you didn't know how the whole business works, you go, yeah, all right. Yeah. Or you get an email that's a purchase order. Here's the purchase order to fill out so we can pay you. And I think, oh yeah, I must write for these people. Click.
Yeah.
I've never done it, but I can see a few times I've thought, gee, I can see how someone would really fall for that.
Yeah, and I think
It's really important as well. There's a lot of spear phishing that happens these
Oh,
days
yeah,
where you'll get emails from, it says it's come from somebody in your company. It's like, Bill Smith, who works in IT, it looks like the email came from him. It's got the company logo. It's got his signature that he puts on the bottom of every email.
They're called business email compromise scams, I think. Yeah. And it appears to come from inside your business, coming from a superior saying to you, I need you to transfer this money to this account now. And you think, I better do that. And next thing you know, the money's gone. So there's spear phishing is usually external. It's someone trying to get in. They've done their research. They've found their particular mark inside the business. All right, this is the person who's authorized to pay invoices on this thing. I'm going to hit them with a very realistic looking invoice because I know them. I know exactly what they're expecting. That's spear phishing. It's targeted. But these business email compromise ones are a bit different because they actually get inside your own system. So the email, as you say, seems to come from someone within the business, from your own supervisor. And there are examples on that where businesses have lost millions because the CIO says, I'm going to a meeting with these people in 30 minutes. Quick, we need to pay their invoice. Send $2 million to this offshore account. And their assistant goes, okay, click.
Yeah,
it's done. It's not their fault. They're doing their job.
Yeah, that's right. And there's procedures that businesses are once bitten, you're going to put in a procedure, aren't you?
And that's what you need. It's all about procedures and policy and training. It's not just technology solutions. It's about teaching your people to spot these things and teaching. You have one person in the business who pays invoices, and anyone else who gets an invoice has to forward it to them, and that person is trained. It's when someone goes, oh, okay, this isn't really my job, but I guess I better deal with this. That's how you get burnt.
But the one that was that raised its head this week was fake Australian Securities Investment Commission emails. Now, and as you say, like these ones, if you got an email into your thing, looked like it was from the ASIC, you'd be going, okay, my business name must be due to renew. Click. But
exactly.
And you'd go, okay, now I've got a little Java exploit on my system, because this particular one,
or it pops up one of those lovely red screens and says, "I hope you've got a lot of bitcoins because we're going to need them."
Yeah, because you're going to need them.
So emails reportedly ask customers to renew their business details via the provided links, which, when clicked, would activate a Java script dropper and infect computers with malware.
So many people would fall for that, and I couldn't blame them.
Really. Yeah, look. I asked. I'll get Jace's answer here. But a JavaScript dropper, does that mean you click on it? It's not a zip file or anything. We go, zip file. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to open those. But a JavaScript dropper, is that just one click and you're gone? Like it's in.
It'll run in your browser, your computer. Most of the computers have web views built into them. It started out that Windows Explorer was a different app that had its own way of drawing things, and your browser was something, your email was something. But now all of those use embedded information, which can run embedded applications, which can run Visual Basic scripts. They can run JavaScript, and all of this is built in, so you get this rich text or animations or images and things like this in your email. Or Windows Explorer has views that are actually a web view of an image or a page or something, like when it renders a thumbnail and things like this, and that can just automatically set things off.
The government has always proposing to introduce legislation for a broadband tax. Now, I don't know if you guys are as disgusted as I am with that, but that's terrible. The story goes on the lines of the government is pushing to introduce a $7.10 minimum monthly broadband tax for fixed line NBN users to pay for the future costs of the fixed wireless and satellite portions of the NBN. It plans to both introduce and pass a regional broadband scheme charge bill alongside a package of telecommunications changes in this coming winter, which wraps up on June 22. So this thing looks like it's heading to the vote anyway, or it's doing something by June 22. So Jace, what do you think of that? I think that's terrible. I don't think we need a tax on broadband. I thought the GST was supposed to replace all these sort of taxes. Now it seems we're getting little bits and bobs added on everywhere.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. I mean, if they had stuck with the original plan, they would have been making it into a profitable business by now, I think. But all the chopping and changing between the different parties that have come into power and going to mixed technologies, which is a bit of a disaster, and all this sort of thing, it should be starting to pay for itself. But now they're going to say, oh, you guys can totally pay for it because we're not going to use government money for it. We'll just use the taxpayers and they can foot the bill again.
Now, Alex, are you as passionate about the NBN as Adam is?
Oh, yeah, look, extremely so. And this is actually a fairly complicated problem, because the issue really is the NBN has to be paid for somehow, and the modelling was all built around the reality that providing NBN to more remote or regional areas was a more expensive proposition than metropolitan areas, and they did a number of things to kind of combat this. There were there's the cherry picking legislation that basically made it harder for competitors to set up in major metro areas, because clearly that's where they'd go, that's where a lot of the population is. But then regional and remote areas get ignored, and the whole idea was this was a national broadband network. Where we find ourselves today, yes, I agree. I think it's a mess, and I think it's a regrettable mess, but it is where we are. And you've still got to deal with this idea of, right, how do you actually pay for this infrastructure? You can talk about something, well, do we spend taxpayers' money or do we spend government money? Well, government money is taxpayers' money.
Yes.
It's still got to be paid for. I mean, it's the same fundage. Now, were it down to me, the whole business has been built, and this is outside of the politics of it, because this was how it was originally proposed, that they would build the whole thing and then sell it to pay for it. I personally think that's a misstep. I think this should just be seen as base level infrastructure in this day and age. And I think the economic benefits of broadband and competitive broadband for Australia outweigh those kinds of costs. But I'm not in politics. That's the way that is running. For the moment, of course, the government has put its $29 billion in there. It's loaned further billions to the NBN to cover all of this. All of that has to be covered because the NBN has been set up not as a government entity, but as a business.
Yeah.
And as a business, it's got to follow those kinds of business rules. It gets difficult. And honestly, if you could say to me, look, this will get delivered, but there will be this $7 charge to the RSPs, and yes, inevitably that will flow through to the users. That's not necessarily a loss provision if everyone gets a decent broadband service.
That's right. And I think that's the issue at the moment. The NBN seems to be just all over the place, doesn't it, with reliability and so forth. Like when talking to Adam the other week, I couldn't believe it was so rubbish. But then Jace, he hasn't had too many problems with it. And but look, I don't know. Like to get once a tax is on something, like okay, the broadband can be paid off in whatever 10 years time, but I don't think they're going to drop the tax, are they? That's more likely just to stay on. I think they still charge for Harbour Bridge crossing. That was supposed to end when the bridge was paid for, wasn't it? But that kept going.
And the M5.
Yeah, they decided to build another road or something. Yeah, but
yeah, and it depends on how they actually structure that one. The other thing to bear in mind, though, and I mean, I know the source of these reports. I know the guy who wrote those reports, and I trust that his sources are accurate. That being said, the government has not absolutely committed to this will definitively happen.
No.
As with everything else government-related, not only do they actually have to write a bill which specifies, right, this is how the tax will work, this is how long we provision it going, and I agree, yeah, taxes don't tend to go away, especially under the current political climate. Taxes that are broad-based, that hit the vast majority of the population. The current administration favours that kind of idea over more narrowband taxes. That's where they politically sit. But they've got to write all of that. They've then got to present it to the Parliament. They've then got to get it through both houses of Parliament before it gets into law. At the same time, they're going to be fighting for a range of budget measures introduced this week.
Yes.
It's feasible that this whole thing could fall apart.
Yeah, look, I'd probably say that's going to fall apart for now. It may happen in the future, hopefully not. But I don't know. Do you remember years ago when emails first started to take traction and Australia Post started to lose their revenue? I'm pretty sure this was a fair income story that it was mooted around the place that the government wanted to charge for extra for emails. and stuff like this. And before charging for emails, I don't know how it was going to work, like per email or per 100 emails or whatever. And then before that, there was going to be a charge on CD or DVD, blank DVDs, because everyone was copying movies and so forth. So they wanted a tax on that to send to the movie companies. But
well, I don't know that the CD DVD thing was ever particularly mooted here, although oddly enough, it did get up in Canada.
Right.
In Canada, it's not quite an explicit right to pirate, but there was a levy put onto blank media to cover for the losses that were presumed for all the stuff that was being put onto that blank media.
Yeah, right, okay.
So it has been done. It has been implemented.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realise it happened in Canada. That's but anyway, I think thankfully the DVDs are just about gone out of fashion these days, haven't they? I'm on to buying double-sided DVDs now, or dual layer, as it were, because they're easier. All right, Jace, what have you got for us this week? Please.
Well, much to the disgust of Will, who's often a co-host on here, digital currency Bitcoin hit a record high overnight as demand for crypto assets soared with the creation of new tokens to raise funding for startups using blockchain technology. Bitcoin hit a record of US 1,760.40 on the Bitstamp platform and was last at $1,747.89, up 6% on the day. So far this year, Bitcoin has surged nearly 80%. Bitcoin's market capitalization overnight soared to $52.5 billion, according to data from coinmarketcap.com. Aside from being an asset that can be traded on exchanges like stocks and bonds, Bitcoin has become a mode of payment for some retailers and a way to transfer funds without the need of a third party. We have an influx of new capital in the space, and that capital goes back and forth among crypto assets and Bitcoin, said Chris Bernlisk, a blockchain products leader at ARK Invest in New York, which manages exchange-traded funds. Bitcoin is still the main liquidity provider in the market, and people use it to buy other crypto assets. And Will was saying in Facebook that he had, what is it, 50? 50? Yeah.
Yeah, he was saying he had 50 coins on an old wallet that he'd lost on a hard drive that,
worth
got
nearly
destroyed.
$2,000 each.
Yes. Ouch. Yeah, so that's no good. Are you into the Bitcoin, Alex?
Look, not personally, although I've written and kind of reported around it. Bitcoin, I've got to admit, kind of amuses me because, well, both the ease of kind of losing a hard drive and losing a fortune, but also its variable valuation just serves to remind me how functionally meaningless money is.
Yeah. Yes.
Because these literally just ones and zeros that people are saying, right, well, these ones and zeros are worth money. Therefore, they're worth money. Therefore, they're tradable and fungible and so on. And that amuses me. I think it's kind of interesting. One interesting tech thing that came out of this week's budget was Bitcoin related.
Right. Okay.
Because one measure that they're going to introduce, and actually I'd be very surprised if this one doesn't get up because I don't see anyone particularly opposing it. Currently, if you buy Bitcoin in Australia and then you use it to buy something else, you get taxed twice because you get taxed twice on buying it because it was seen as a good, and then you get GST on whatever it is that you're buying with your Bitcoin.
Oh,
and they're going to remove that first layer of taxation on it so that you are not double taxed via Bitcoin. It gives it that little level further of legitimacy in that space of viewing it as as any other currency. You could buy Bitcoin, you could buy US dollars, you could buy yen, you could buy whatever you like.
Yeah, that's look, I've tried to do the Bitcoin thing. I think I downloaded and let it download for a few hours. It's a big download, and but I couldn't even work it out. So I just left it. I didn't have time.
Part of the problem is that when it first came out, the Bitcoins weren't so common as they are now. They're a lot rarer. So mining you could do, overnight, leaving your computer on. Now, to be able to generate one Bitcoin, you need to have a farm of servers running with GPUs in a data center somewhere, and often the cost of running them, or if you have it at home, the cost of the electricity and heat, cooling and stuff ends up being more than the cost to generate even bits of Bitcoins these days. But another article that I came across related to this is when Bram Cohen first launched BitTorrent, he offered a solution to the bandwidth scarcity problem by allowing anyone to distribute large files without having to invest in expensive infrastructure. In recent years, he's closely followed the cryptocurrency boom, not as a money-hungry investor with dollar signs in his eyes, but as a programmer who sees problems that need solving. Most recently, he presented a paper and a talk at Stanford Blockchain Conference discussing proofs of space and proofs of time. Without going into technical details, he believes that Bitcoin is wasteful. He suggests that a cryptocurrency that pins the mining value on storage space rather than processor time will be superior. My proposal isn't really to do something to Bitcoin. It really has to be a new currency, Cohen says. I'm going to make a cryptocurrency company. That's my plan. By focusing on a storage-based solution, BitTorrent's inventor also hopes to address other Bitcoin flaws such as the 51% attack. Another benefit of storage-based things is actually there's a lot less centralization in mining, so it's a lot less concern about having a 51% attack. Sometimes people have this misapprehension that Bitcoin is a democracy. No, Bitcoin is not a democracy. It's called a 51% attack for a reason. This is not a majority of the vote. That's not how Bitcoin works. So I'd be inclined to wait for somebody who's invented a proven technology like BitTorrent to come out with his own cryptocurrency, and I might think of banking on that, see how that goes.
But do you think, I'm not sure, I've never heard of a Bitcoin bank, but does one of those exist, like where you can borrow and invest and interest and all that? Does that exist? No?
There have been. Although it's not something I've covered in deep detail, but just kind of my own reading around it. There have been Bitcoin brokers and that kind of thing, and some of them have come to a sticky end. And of course, when you come to a sticky end and you've got lots of people's money, people get very, very upset.
It gets real sticky. Yes.
There was a website called MTGOX, which was originally Magic the Gathering online exchange service, and the guy shut down his Magic the Gathering service and brought it up as Mount Gox. They started calling it just to reuse the name, and he started letting people trade Bitcoin through him, but then his ended up coming to a sticky end. They lost, thousands of people's Bitcoins and hence millions of dollars. And I think a guy in Australia had one as well in Sydney, and he just disappeared into the night with all these Bitcoins from people's wallets that he'd been looking after for exchanging as well. So you've got to put trust in people who may not be quite as trustworthy as you expected.
Yes. Yeah, now someone that might be, not really, but in the market to buy in Bitcoin, well, how about Apple? Apple has become the first US company to top $800 billion in its market capitalization this week. And it crossed over the 700 US billion mark less than 2 years ago. So that is just going gangbusters, this company. Shares have gained 33% this year, almost about 50% since the US election. So I don't know, that's got to tell you something. I think the economy's not going to, well, the share market's going gangbusters over there at the moment, from what I hear. The company represents about 4% of the 21.7 trillion US that makes up the entire S&P 500 index. So Apple's no flash in the pan, is it? It's just growing. What do you, Alex? Do you have any idea? What's your thoughts on? Is Apple what are they going to do with all this money? Are they just going to start buying things? I heard a rumor they might be going to buy Disney or Tesla or something like this.
They bought a company announced just recently.
Yeah, but they've got to spend some big coin, haven't they? Like to get rid of 800, well, not get rid of 800 billion, but that's a lot of money. What are you going to do with that?
Okay, the important thing to separate there. Apple has a huge war chest. Don't get me wrong, and I can't. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what the number is, but it's a big one, and there's a lot of zeros behind it. But it's not that 800 billion. That 800 billion is the value of their shares.
Right,
That's
yes.
what the company's valued at. It's not as though Tim Cook can go, oh, yeah, look, I've got all these shares. I'll just go down the bank and they'll give me 800 billion.
Yeah,
you can't do
true.
that. And Apple's share price does this interesting thing year in, year out, where leading up towards largely the iPhone release of that year, the share price will tend to creep up. It almost doesn't matter what they do in terms of the iPhone. It will typically then take a bit of a nosedive because everyone's speculated on what high point it will hit.
Yeah.
And then they all try and trade out of it as quickly as possible. And that's the way the share market works. I mean, you try and make money out of your shares. What Apple spends its huge war chest on is a completely kind of different matter. And so far, yeah, they seem to be doing these, and they've done this for a long time, largely smaller strategic buys rather than big scale ones. I mean, the last huge buy that they did was Beats.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that they've, I think, they got Dr. Dre out of that. They probably got Apple Music kickstarted a bit faster because of that. I'm not sure the actual headphone business has been so massively profitable for them that it's justified the price that they paid, especially when you consider even within their own Apple stores. Yes, of course, the Beats headphones are front and center, but you can buy other products.
I think their actual cash in the bank, it was like, last year it was about 100 billion. I know, it was just a massive amount. So
it's also, but that's also even more complicated because it's not as though they can go, right, it's in Bank of America or it's in the Commonwealth Bank.
Right.
It is all over the planet.
Right.
And it's deliberately all over the planet because they take as much advantage, and all big businesses do this, but they take as much advantage of tax structures as they can. So there's this huge prevailing theory, in fact, that an awful lot of US tech companies are waiting to see if President Trump will actually announce an effective tax amnesty to try and get a lot of this currency back on US shores, because if they do that, then they don't have to pay the tax on it. Whereas if they do, then suddenly they're looking at millions and millions, if not billions of dollars of taxes that need to be paid. It wasn't that long ago that the EU judged that they owed the Irish government taxes. The Irish government turned around and said, well, actually, we kind of don't want to collect these taxes from Apple, not because we don't want the money, but because we don't want them moving out of Ireland. Yeah,
that's right. Well, who would want a big company like that to move? I think it was what Trump's going down, repatriation tax or something. He's talking about 10%. Or something, which we'll just have to see what happens, I guess, because he's looking at getting the company tax down to 15. So is repatriation that 10%? Is that going to be a big enough incentive? It may well be, but
I don't know. But in the meantime, of course, this means that it's not so easy for. I mean, Apple could buy all sorts of companies. Absolutely, they technically have the money. Organising all those ones and zeros in a row in the right places and getting the regulatory authority to do it, because that's the other hurdle they'd have to jump. Is it's not that simple.
Yeah, you going to say something, Jace?
The latest company they acquired is called Beddit, that has a mattress topper that's connected up to your iPhone and records your sleep patterns.
Oh, there you go.
Now, going back to the tech meme, Lydia, how do the stories sort of come to be? Like, they're just all picked up. What are they like? Does your system subscribe to, say, so many RSS feeds and just pick out keywords and then plonk them on the?
Yeah. So it looks at links, and it looks at, different types of, how many people are talking about this topic. And that's what I was just going to say about Micron 21. When was the new news release this morning, our time? So at least 11 hours ago. And how many people have written it up? Let me do a quick search on Google. And it's 2.
Right.
So, there's, jack shit chatter about it. Sorry. I don't know if you have to cut me out there.
No, that's all right. That word's allowed.
Right. So, no one's talking about it. So, we would never pick it up because it's, it really, to me, I've been looking at, I was having a bit of a rant to Jason last week. This is what I do day in, day out. I look at news, I see what's coming out, and, you can tell, you get the same old pictures day in, day out, and you can see what's being plugged as the, notice us email versus the, oh, wow, we've got some news. And so I guess our algorithm picks it up and points it out to us. Sometimes it misses it. Sometimes it picks up a lot of crap and we have to get rid of it. And our job is basically to curate that. And over the last year or so, we've actually been writing the headlines because we used to get very tired of the baity, quick baity.
Yeah.
And you won't believe what happened next.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, how many times do you click on those ones?
No, but I mean, people do. And, oh, my God, this guy got out today and quick click. Oh, no one cares.
Yeah, that's right.
So we started writing the headlines ourselves. Not everyone was pleased. A lot of, some bloggers got a little bit upset about it all because,
So
perhaps they should write better headlines in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
When someone clicks on a link from the site, I'm not sure if you know how it all technically works too much, but I'll give it a shot.
I'm not allowed to tell you, Glenn, because I'd have to kill you if I told you anything about it.
Oh, no. I'm doing my own little tech news memes.
Right. Tell me.
No, I was going to ask you, when someone clicks on a story on the page and then it links directly to the original published story on the publisher's page, do they know that you've referred them? As their stats, there probably would be. Yeah.
it would do.
Well,
Yeah.
do you have stats on your page?
Yeah.
you see who.
Apache referrer link and stuff like that.
Well, there's some places I know. There's a news place I go to get some of my news from, and every time you click on the link, it'll take you to the page, but it adds like a bit to the URL.
No, we're not awful like that.
No, that's good. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so
We're very nice people.
oh, that's very nice. Now I know you guys get a pretty good write up from all the tech heads in Silicon Valley, don't you? Like everyone says, oh, this is the first page on our laptop when it boots up every morning, and all this sort of stuff. So it's obviously very well known. Yeah, it's good.
Well known in Silicon Valley, not so much outside of it, and it's really tricky too because, in Australia, of course, when I moved, because I lived in Silicon Valley for a while there, and I worked while I was there, it was much easier. But being in Australia and seeing Australian news doesn't excite me as much as some of the stuff coming out of America. Although I must admit, lately, watching the news and seeing everything about Trump and every man and his dog from every tech publication trying to somehow hook in Trump into their tech story.
Yes.
They're reading all this junk that
he's become clickbait himself, hasn't he? Just his name is clickbait. Yeah. So. Yeah, so it's a very interesting site. And you've also got who's hiring in tech. So they be just people that are tech companies that are hiring. They must just pop up their if they're looking for someone, they'll pop up a little ad there by the look of it.
You're very cute because it's like you've discovered this new site and you're going, oh wow, it's got this and it's got this and
it's got everything.
It's got everything. You don't have to ever leave Tech Meme.
No, I know. Have you got has Tech Meme got an RSS feed for itself? I wonder.
I think there was one. I don't know if there still is one.
Oh, right. I'm gonna have to look. I'll have a look.
Scroll back.
I'll have a look. I'll investigate because I might bring it into my feeder.
Know.
I'll just have all the news in one spot in my RSS feeder. How good's that? All right, Jace. What else is going on?
Jace is falling asleep. Sorry, Jason, about that.
I was just having a look. techmeme.com/search/query Q equals RSS.
And
you did it.
Did you? Oh,
done.
Right. How good's that? All right, cool.
Yep, they got it there. I did it the really technical way. I went to Google and typed in TechMeme space RSS.
Oh, really?
I thought
You'll have to teach me.
I thought you were just playing with URL strings there, but So what else has been happening, Jace, that you've picked up this week?
Well, I hope this doesn't upset you, Glenn, but the NBN Co. has added more than 19,000 premises to its footprint over the past fortnight that are unable to connect to internet services, underlining its new strategy to skip homes that are too hard to connect until later in the rollout.
Oh,
the network builder has more than doubled the number of so-called service class 0 or equivalent premises in its footprint in just 6 months. Premises in ready-for-service areas that are unable to connect are categorized as SC0 for FTTP, SC10 fiber to the node basement, and SC20 for HFC. In the week ending November 17 last year, there were 61,852 SCO premises. As of this week, the figure had climbed to 145,658. Although raw complaint numbers continue to rise, the rate of increase in these complaints is slower than the rate of new premises connected to the national broadband network, NBN Co. has repeatedly claimed. Same cannot be said for SCO premises. The past fortnight has been particularly troublesome, with 16.5% of the 115,393 properties added to the rollout placed in the too hard basket. An NBN Co. spokesperson said some premises took a little bit longer to connect than we would like to be the case.
Now, I know you sent me a Twitter picture today that the NBN box was installed into a toilet. Now,
I thought you'd like that one.
Is that fair income?
Right next to the loo.
Is that fair income, or is that just a G up? Like,
I don't know. I saw a lot of people talking about it, so I thought I'd have to tweet it to you.
I reckon that it probably popped out of the ground on the outside of the house, just right at the toilet, and they've thought, we're not taking this anywhere. We're just going straight through the wall. Because I remember what happened at Will's place. They put it. They ran it around the outside of the house or something.
Yeah, and then the cable went up at a 90-degree angle and then in, so they bent the optic fibre at angles that it's not supposed to go. But it says here, a group moderator for the group that this photo was posted on. Gizmodo talked to them. They said it's 100% legit install. They've reached out for further information. NBN responded to the image of the parent install on Twitter, calling it interesting.
Right.
NBN Australia. So that's an interesting installation, Cameron. If this is your bathroom, please DM us with an address and contact number.
But I suppose it probably is out of the way, being in the toilet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can bring that. I haven't got that picture to show you, but if you Googled NBN install toilet, you'll find it.
That's exactly what I just did.
Do I want
Isn't this
to?
Google thing wonderful?
Let me have a look. Let me Google it so I can show everyone. NBN.
It's in a Facebook group called Crappy NBN.
You on the NBN,
Which
Lydia?
is quite relevant.
No.
Crappy NBN.
No,
No. What technology have you got?
I have no idea, but it's very, very bad, and I'm not happy with it. Actually, I'm struggling with the NBN, getting my head around what they're doing, because it started off as one thing. 10 years ago, I remember them talking about one thing, and it sort of morphed into, I'm not sure what it is anymore.
No,
And-
no one does.
Oh, really?
And a big pile of crappy NBN-ness.
Yeah.
I think one of my mates who lives just up near Dreamworld, if you know where that is, they went over to the NBN and they suffered the same problem that Adam was telling us about, where they disconnected from the ADSL, and then the NBN didn't work, and they couldn't go back to the ADSL until the NBN got fixed, or until it worked. It's a bit of a mess. But look, I found on that finder.com.au site, if you go into the internet section and then punch your address into the NBN section of that section, then it gives you a lot more information than the NBN Co website does. So it pulls down like...
That's appalling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you can thank Alex and Gus for that.
Yes, no, it gives you a lot more information, and I'll take their site as more truthful than the NBN code, because it gives it to me 6 months earlier. So I don't know. So hopefully they're on the money.
Don't get your hopes up too much.
No.
When's it supposed to be completed, the rollout?
2020.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay.
And then
So
2022.
2030, 2040?
Yeah, 2060.
Before the end of the world, I think.
Something like that. But yeah, it's wrong. So are you in the Melbourne CBD around there, Lydia? 'Cause-
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
Close enough.
close enough.
Yeah. So like you would think that when the NBN rolled out, and I know we've had this discussion before, that it would roll it out to where the population is. It could get a bit of momentum going, bringing in some money or whatever. But you hear these stories still of the NBN goes past people's homes and they don't even bother connecting to it because they're happy enough with the ADSL or whatever they got. God knows why. But I suppose if you're a light user, the plan that you go on to, there's a light NBN plan. I think it's just as good like speed wise as the ADSL anyway. So I think that's probably why. Yeah, that's why.
If you're in a town like mine, they switched off all the copper. So if you wanted to stay on ADSL one day, your internet was gone. So you had to go to NBN or you had nothing when they switched all the copper off.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. It's crazy town. Look, I've got a story for Will. Will Lydia was a host on the show. Well, he probably still is. I shouldn't use past tense.
He hasn't been on for a while. He's had computer problems.
Yeah, he's always got computer problems. I don't know why. He's the guy that's not going on the Windows 10. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, he said he bought new RAM, new video card, new SSD, installed everything, and if he tries to run anything in Java, the thing crashes and restarts. I said the only thing left is motherboard. And he said, well, I have $500 for another motherboard, so...
Well, I think I'd be just maybe going down and just buying a cheapie just to get going. You know, what you can get boards for like $58 and a cheap CPU just to get cracking. So come on, Will, get cracking.
So it means he can't play Minecraft, so it hits on our podcast as well, which is all about Minecraft. And he can't say, "Well, I tried out the thing," because you can't try it. You can probably use the Windows 10 version of Minecraft, which is C++ exe file instead of the Java.
but you don't get to play the modded one, which is what we mostly play.
Now, I've got a question about that Minecraft, because I downloaded the Windows 10 version for the kids, and they love it. They love any version. So, I think I got it for a special $15. It was a cheapie.
Yep.
So that was really good.
Just for Windows 10, yep. They got an introductory price going for a while.
Yeah, and so does that mean that the actual PC version is going to go away, and then the Windows 10 version will be the PC version? Like, are they?
No, because they have to keep it in Java, so it'll run on Mac and Linux and as well.
Right.
So what happened was they wrote it, Notch wrote it in Java, and it would work on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And then Microsoft came along and bought it. They bought into it, and they started writing a version for the mobile devices. But you can't really run very well in Java on mobile devices, so they wrote it in C++. And then once they had most of it written in C++, then they could easily port that to Windows and just recompile it with the Windows libraries to have a C++ version.
Right,
which
yes.
some systems can run better. Some people don't like Java because it can be a bit laggy. Some don't like it because it's another place for exploits to get in. There's always Java holes in Java, just like Adobe products. So some people just won't install Java. So Microsoft can say we can have this. They could put it in the Windows Store, whatever they like, and then for the mobile devices. And for consoles and things, it can be written in C++, and they can just port it between all of them.
Yeah, so you still can't, each version that you get, so say like the Windows 10 version, the PC version, Xbox version, blah blah blah, you still can't cross play in the worlds?
Not yet. They're still working on it. They've got a system called Minecraft Realms, which is where you can host servers with them. And the Realms is going to allow cross-compatibility at some stage, but they're always working on it and iterating till eventually they get there.
Right, I see. All right, well, getting back to Will's story, that wasn't Will's story or anything like that, but Bitcoin, I know Will loves this. Will love this one because Will had a few Bitcoins. I think he said he had 50, and he lost his wallet in a hard drive crash. But anyway, Will, the Bitcoin has hit $2,000, a trading point high. Now, it's believed to be linked to, the high is believed to be linked to policy changes in Japan and China. They've made it easier for speculators to trade in Bitcoins. So, Bitcoin first broke the $1,000 barrier in November 2013, and it's gone up and down, as you would have known, wildly. Since then, I think it got down to a low of about $280, something like that, and I thought it was the end of it. But at the end of 2016, each one was changing hands for about 900. So now it's up to 2,000. I think if I had any, I think I'd probably cash out. I think that.
Yeah, well, it says. Sorry,
it's actually gone up. It's up again.
Yeah,
right.
I was just going to say it's 2,400, which is about 3,196 Australian dollars.
Oh well, CoinDesk has got it at 2723.
Oh,
it's still going up.
Geez, that's crazy, isn't it?
It's got a bubble and then burst, and people are going to lose a lot and be very sad.
Well, I guess that's what you got to see. I would have cashed out at $2,000, but then I suppose if you kept and held, like where do you go at like 2.7? You have to be going. Geez, I've got to take it, haven't you?
You have to pick some point. A guy I'd been talking to on Twitter and in Facebook, he cashed in a couple of years ago, got $800,000 and bought a house with cash.
Jeez, wow, that's all right, and pretty much it's free money, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. But how long, Jace, would it take you to mine a coin? And it'd take you'd probably never do it.
Now it's not worth it really, because the amount of money that you spend in electricity and time and effort to generate the coin is about the same. Much cheaper to just have the money in the first place. You're spending all this money on the electricity and stuff. Hardly worth it, because you get a tiny fraction of a coin after hours and hours and hours of calculation. And you want to have a really good setup with GPUs, not CPUs. They're too slow. So you can also buy Bitcoin servers, the place that we host our Minecraft server with at Net Presence in Sydney. They have Bitcoin servers that you can buy, and they'll just sit there all day mining for you.
Oh, jeez, that's crazy. Have you heard of these other ones? Apparently they're rivals to Bitcoin, as the Ethereum and Ripple. Has anyone heard of those?
I think
There's a
Microsoft is with Ethereum.
Oh, yeah. What was that? Sorry, Lydia? No. No, you're gone.
You're muted.
You muted yourself. But we'll wait till...
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
I was saying there are quite a few of them, and you really are doing yourself a disservice by not reading TechMeme there, Glenn. You know about these.
I probably would. But yeah, I'll have to put my finger out. Yeah, so I did download Bitcoin once to try and do it, and I think it had to download 20 gig to get going, and I did that, and I just couldn't handle it. So
How long ago was it?
Maybe 12 months, something like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't long ago.
Still too late.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to just see what it was all about, just see if I just see, and not that I was, trying to do it to really make anything out of it, but I think there's other things. Is there a blockchain or something? Someone told me that was...
That's what they all are. They're all blockchain algorithm.
Yeah.
Microsoft, Intel, Accenture, and more than 24 banks and other companies formed an alliance to use the Ethereum blockchain code. The members companies unveiling the new Enterprise Ethereum Alliance on February 28. Blockchain is the technology that underpins the cryptocurrency Bitcoin, but it has uses beyond that. So,
yeah, right. Well, I might do it one day when I get time. Who knows when that will be.
Thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Heads Christmas special. We broadcast weekly and can be found at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads. You can email us, Glenn, Will, Warlock, or Eric at aussietechheads.com.au, and you can hear the Aussie Tech Heads show on aussietechradio.com, 24/7 back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows from around Australia and New Zealand. New shows are added each Friday. We'll see you again in the new year. Keep listening and thanks. Bye.